has moved, technology has moved, we have tools for connectivity, everything is moved. I can't say now that I want to live the life that I lived in the 70s or 80s. I can't force my children to go to the Juhu beach or to a Maidan and run and keep playing, because today they have all the other means of entertainment in the house. And also now more and more social media and Instagram. I cannot, growth and explanation cannot be given in deprivation. I cannot snatch that away from them to hold them in good mental state. The two words that we talk about, stressed and depressed, till 30 years of my age, these words were never in the vocabulary. We were tired, we were sad, we were disappointed, we were, we had a breakup, we had a heartbreak. But was I depressed? I didn't know what it meant. I didn't know what it meant to be stressed. We had exams. I didn't sleep all night to give exams, but I was not depressed. Now I'm a mother of two daughters in today's day. The word that comes out of their mouth is, I am stressed, I am depressed. And one day, my older daughter came up to me and said, Mama, I'm very depressed. And I said to her, go to sleep, beta. You wake up, everything will be all right. Next thing, she went to school and she told the school counselor that my mother doesn't know the meaning of mental health and she is not a caring, loving mother. She is not sensitive, because she told me, I went and told my mother, I communicated to my mother that I'm depressed, and my mother said, go to sleep. Because my father said that to me in the 70s. Papa, I have a headache, go to sleep, you'll be fine. Life has changed. The whole point is that how we change, hold the good from the past and understand the new. Before we expect our children to change, we need to be aware and well acquainted with what is happening. Today, I had to educate myself. I enrolled in workshops. I talked to Dr. Batra a lot and understood. I've become sensitive. And the one thing that I realized today is the problem of isolation. As much as we have all the tools to stay connected, we are more and more isolated. In the big, we've become small. So I realized the old family system is my blessing, was my blessing. Every time I walk into the home, even today, I shout out, Mama ghar pe hai? And my children do that. And I make it a point to be home when they come and say, Mama ghar pe hai. If I'm not home, make sure that they are connected to human beings. There is no replacement. The money, the tools, everything gives you pleasure, but the fulfillment and connectivity only comes from human beings, and that I have not learned from books but from experience. In the old days, when we went to our best friend's house, we never made a date. We walked into their houses, whether they were showering, not showering, whether their nannies have come from Baroda, you didn't care. But today, we keep our people out. We don't allow people to come in because we don't want them to see many. So it's so beautiful to be taken granted for, and to have people who take you for granted, and you have people you can take for granted, with respect, of course. Because how many times can you take people for granted? It's a greatest gift when I say कि मैं इसके घर पे कभी भी जा सकता हूँ. It's a gift when people are there for you. So the only lesson that I have learned and I experienced from being a daughter of back in the day, being a mother today, having young children, only human beings, only people keep you happy. During highs and lows, you can get pleasure in many ways, but fulfillment and support, you need human beings. So everything to do to keep the human contact going.
Thank you, Madhu. That was really enlightening. Thank you for speaking from the heart. Can I take that question forward to you? Manjeera, how do you deal with social media and the mental pressures of social media?
Well, I've always looked at social media as a very positive space. So if you look for positivity in it, you get positivity from it. That's not to say I don't get trolled. And I think people who are nameless and faceless and anonymous have the guts to say stuff about you. They never do it with their actual name and face out there. So the best thing to do in situations like this is to ignore. Because if you respond, that's what they're looking for. as far as social media is concerned. So if I put out positivity, I get positivity, and I use social media as a space of putting, you know, my thoughts out, my workouts out, and that's what the algorithm feeds me. So you know, what you put out is what you get. Now, as far as the cyberbullying part of it is concerned, it hasn't happened yet. My son is 12 years old, my daughter is 7. She doesn't have a phone, and she's not going to get one till she's 15. But my son has a phone, and he's already on social media, and I worry. He's still very innocent. I worry that, you know, what will happen if. But we are in a world right now where we can't take screens away. We can control it as much as we can, but we still can't take it away. And there will be times when he'll be in contact with people you don't want him to be in contact, you know, them to be in. I mean, I haven't thought ahead as to what I will do, but we try and control it to the best of our abilities right now. We can't take screens away because that's the way forward. Everything happens on a screen. Everything they're learning is from. People aren't opening books anymore. People are doing research. People are getting online, getting onto YouTube. A lot of what they get and what they're talking about is material and information and content that comes from YouTube. So we are, and fortunately, I have the lines of communication with my children open, and I think that is possibly the best way to deal with things like this, because whenever he sees something which he doesn't understand, he'll come to me and ask me, and I've answered some seriously sex related questions because the content that he's viewed, you know, uses words so loosely that he comes to me and asks me what the meaning of those words are, and I try and answer as truthfully and as factually as I possibly can, and that's the best thing you can do, because what we do is we try to hush things up, or we try to, you know, give them, you know, what do you call it, the sweet pill, the bit you sweeten the pill or whatever, mollycoddle them, or just sweeten it and make it sound like it isn't really, it really isn't. So I try to give my son the truth about everything, and the lines of communication are open, and that's the way to go. If there's communication and they'll speak to you about it, whatever it may be, then you can deal with it as an adult.
The takeaway so far are that truth, communication, family, spontaneity are good for mental health.
Absolutely.
But the question I next want to ask you is, your physical workouts are so inspirational. Do you feel that it strengthens you mentally to be physically fit, or is it the other way around?
Well, here's the thing. Physical fitness is all very well. You can go to the gym and get yourself a six-pack. You can look, you know, fit. But if there's no mental health, if your mental health is not in order, then it counts for nothing. So there was a time when I could run my way out of a bad mood. Okay, and then there were times where things would persist, and I'd say, you know what? I mean, I have done it all, Dr. Batra. I have gone to a clinical therapist, I've gone to a spiritual therapist, I've been to a hypnotherapist as well, because I had some serious anger issues. And you know, I must tell you, the first time I went to a therapist, I told my mom, I said, Mom, I'm going to go and meet a counselor. I'm going to meet a psychiatrist. She said, what? Why? This whole stigma thing. Why are you going to see a therapist? What's wrong with you? Come talk to me. I said, no, Mom, I don't want to talk to you. I want to speak to a professional. I mean, first up, speak to a friend, okay? Friends are very biased and they'll tell you what you want to hear, but the right way to go is go speak to a therapist, because, you know, they'll show you a mirror, they'll give you a perspective, they'll tell you like it is. I mean, so I've gone to a counselor, I've gone to a spiritual therapist, I've gone to a hypnotherapist, and it was hypnotherapy actually, Dr. Batra, that really helped me with my anger issues, because awareness is the first thing that something is amiss, okay? Be it depression, or be it anger, or be it whatever, negativity. And if it's persisting for a little while, I mean, you can feel negative for a little bit, or you can feel angry depending on a situation. But if there's something that persists for a while, first up is awareness. something is wrong. I need to do something about it. Next is take that step. Go meet someone. Dr. Batra, from when I went and when my mother said to me, why are you going to a therapist? Things have changed since then. Now I do a lot of corporate events. I speak at, for corporates, and all these organizations who call me to speak have a cell where you can meet a doctor, meet a therapist, a hotline. So when you're feeling something is off, something is amiss, awareness is one thing, go do something about it. Go meet someone, go talk to someone. First, be it a friend, but it's always, may I tell you, it's always easier to talk to a doctor. It's always easier to talk to a therapist because they will not judge you. They will, give you an unbiased view. They will show you a perspective which your own people can't. So I've done it all, and I've really worked very hard on myself, and I'm not ashamed to admit that I've done every kind of therapy. And even now, whenever anything is a little bit off, feels off for even 3 days, I say, you know what, I'd like to just speak about it, get it out of my system, get a perspective. Someone needs to show me a mirror because I'm just caught up in it right now. So I've always dealt with it. I haven't had medication yet, but is there good homeopathy for anxiety?
It's listed beautifully in the book.
Well,
Really.
I have been going, by the way, I've been going to Dr. Batra's for the last 10 years. My children's health and my health are in Dr. Batra's hands. We have is Dr. Manisha here? I love you if you are. She takes care of my children, and whenever we've needed, to deal with anything, Dr. Manisha has been there and has taken care of us. So I've not really needed anything yet for anxiety. I've always actually dealt with it by talking about it and speaking to a professional about it. The anger issues were so bad, it was hypnotherapy that actually, helped me out of it. And hypnotherapy, by the way, sorry, very quickly, as an aside, is not what you think it is. You're not lying on a couch with a pendulum in front of you with your eyes going googly and you're just blurting out anything. You're actually reaching a very, very beautiful, relaxed state where you can access parts of your mind which you can't otherwise access in your day-to-day life, and you deal with certain things that you push down and not dealt with, and you just bring them to the surface and you deal with them and let go of them, and you you're awake all through. You come out of it feeling lighter, feeling stronger, feeling better, feeling healed. So I've done it all, and now, may I tell you, if I see trolls writing things about me, I'm like, me and my friends have a good laugh about it and let it be.
Thank you so much for that. Being so open about it. It takes a lot of courage to talk about these things. So then you're in the spotlight, you're in the media, lots of pressure to be a certain way, look a certain way. Everything you say gets misinterpreted. How do you deal with these pressures? How does it affect you mentally? Do you get anxiety or stress?
Firstly, I would like to thank Dr. Batra for touching upon such an amazing topic of mental health. When we were growing up, we had God, and today the kids have Google. So what's happening right now is that there's this incredible information coming every second, instantaneous gratification that everybody wants every second, so many options on the table. I actually feel bad for this generation. I feel bad for the millennials. I feel bad for the boomers because they are computing. No, we are Gen X. Yeah.
Not the baby boomers.
No, not the baby boomers.
They're the ones who are completely safe.
Yeah. You're going to be a Zoomer. Okay. So coming back to some of these, fables that are going about how doctor, was mentioning that, people are still stuck in the past. I mean, just for something like when people say, they sneeze, you say, God bless you. Apparently, back in the day, people thought an evil spirit went through you. Okay, and that was the way people said, God bless you, and how far we've come from there. So, to talk about the kind of onslaught that's happening on social media and the kind of toughness that you'd have to have just to either be a part of it or not be a part of it is a decision. So when I, for instance, tell my children, number one rule of thumb is be transparent. They're going to be exposed to everything, but you've got to tell them things that are very pertinent and very realistic. One, which is, if you sort of post a picture of yourself that is stupid or somehow compromising yourself, remember something. It's going to be there on the digital block forever. You're never going to be able to take it out. Back in our day, we made a mistake, we brushed on the carpet, we left, we went forward. Wow, nobody got to know. Today, it's not that. Yes, they have to deal with that. So you tell them that this will happen, there will be consequences. And there's only so much that your mom and dad can do at that point in time. So it is extremely important to understand that, getting trolled is something that I completely agree with Mandira on this. That you have to have a thick skin. If you want to be part of it, you got to grow thick skin. And at some point in time, trollers will start to believe that they're not having any effect on you, and they'll just be a little wake of a boat that passes behind. And you're going to move on, and you're going to get stronger and stronger. I have to say, I'm sitting here with captains of industries who are, and I'm really dwarfed, like Mr. Rajiv Bajaj, Dr. Batra, and they have they know plans of what India is going to be in the next 10 years and all. But I can guarantee you one thing: AI is coming, and nobody knows what's going to happen in the next 5-6 years. Nobody in this room, or not even some of the top-notch industrialists, if I may say so. The things are changing so fast, so quickly, that it's even Ivy League colleges are finding it tough to tell their students, how to cope, how to adapt, how to grow in the new environment, what skills do you need to have. So, as an actor, I can tell you, we are, we brush with a spot boy, a makeup man, a producer, and a corporate all in the same day, every day. And I agree with Madhu, if there's one thing that COVID taught us, is the human touch is very important. Being human is very important. Understanding each other's problems, our flaws, our insecurities is important, because that's when we share and we understand what it is to overcome such things. As an actor, I've had successes, failures, ups, downs, family. And I can tell you what, I've I've been like a chip of the old block in that sense. I agree with Madhu on these things. When somebody says, when our parents, we used to say, oh, I have a headache. He says, go to sleep, you'll be fine. It's true. Back in the day, it was like that. They didn't make a big deal out of it, and hence it wasn't a big deal in the head of ours. And then when we reached the next day, we forgot about it. Now I think there's so much that is being unnecessarily being pointed out towards, oh, you know what, this is your problem, this you have, post-traumatic stress disorder, or you have this, or you have that. I think, yeah, we're going to toughen up our kids. We're going to tell them, you want it, these are the rules. You don't want it, then don't take it. That's as simple as that. As far as mental health is concerned, very important topic, especially in this time and age. I think there should be, a real, there should be classes, there should be, kind of studies, there should be an education, not just, specifically, but like general education on mental health, like how you have a PE, you should have a mental health class that also is part of the curriculum. It's not something that's not something that's elective, because kids, they're inheriting this whole new world, man. And I can tell you, I feel really bad for them. So I'm really, really happy to be on this dais with Dr. Batra. I'm so happy you've written this book. I'm really looking forward to reading it. And thank you so much for your time. And I'm really looking forward to what everybody else
Thank you
has.
so much for that. A really great suggestion. Another area, Rajiv, that he really focuses on in his book is how our workforce today is plagued with issues of anxiety and depression. And he explains the difference between anxiety and depression, which sometimes a lot of people don't get. In your, as a captain of industry, the right term to use for you, do you see this a lot in the workforce today? Do you see people struggling with 9-to-5 jobs? Do you see them very stressed out as they travel on their path to success?
Good afternoon, everyone. Patra is a very courageous man to invite me here today because I've spent 33 years making motorcycles. Now I'm going to talk about mental health. But, sorry, you can't hear me? This one? Akshay kept the best mic. I'm very soft spoken. I'm married, that's why I'm soft spoken. Let me tell you a story. I come from the city of Pune, and I was very fortunate to have as my yoga teacher for some time Guruji P.K.S. Iyengar. You know, so at one point in time in July 2012, when I hurt myself doing yoga, because as Dr. Michael Boyd said, what is powerful for good is potent for evil. So too much yoga, I hurt my back. Guruji found out. I was laid up for 3 weeks, and he asked me to come and see him. But I didn't go because Guruji was very tough in the best of times, and I was in a lot of pain, and I didn't want to go, you know. So I didn't go for about a month, but then he insisted, and I gave up. I decided to submit myself to him, so I went to his institute. And he asked me, I asked you to come a month ago when your wound was fresh. Why didn't you come? And I said, Guruji, because I'm already in pain, and then to come to you was intimidating. And he said something which I think helps answer the question you were asking. He said, in yoga, as in life, pain comes only when your direction is not correct. If your direction is correct, there is no pain. If you know how to sit, if you know how to twist, if you know how to stretch forward, backward, there is no pain. So in companies, because your question was related to companies and workforce, etc. In organizations, it doesn't matter whether it's Bajaj Auto or Dr. Batra's. I think if your direction is correct, there is no pain. Then there is only pleasure and there is fulfillment. If your direction is wrong, if you don't know who you are, and then you stray, and then you do things that you should not be doing, then there is pain on a daily basis. So I'd like to believe as a company, we have a clear focus. We are a motorcycle company. We are the world's largest three-wheeler maker. We made our first motorcycle only 20 years ago. And in January last year, for whatever it is worth, by market cap, we became the world's most valuable motorcycle and three-wheeler company. So this kind of success cannot be achieved unless 10,000 people are all happily participating in it. So based on that result, I would like to believe that stress to hota hai, but itna kuch zyada nahi hoga. So that's my approach. If the direction is right, then pain will be minimal.
There was a huge furor about the comment made by Narayan Murthy about 70-hour weeks not being adequate. And the younger generation was like, if you have 70-hour weeks, it's too much. But do you think that there is any particular formula? Ashish, is there any particular formula for how many hours a day a person should work to attain optimal mental and emotional health?
Before Dr. Saab steps in, if I can just take that. So I think, first of all, what is meant by work is very important to understand. When Narayan Murthy sir is saying, I am working 70 hours a week, of course, he doesn't mean he's at his desk for 70 hours a week. So without understanding what he's saying, I think people jumped on him. But in this context, I must tell you that as I was growing up, and my father was in class with Ratan Tata and these kind of people, and I saw that there were some policies. For example, you retire when you're 60. And then I saw that as these people approach 60, they moved the retirement to 65. Then they moved it to 70. Then they became chairman emeritus. So, matlab wo khatam hi nahi hoti baat. So I then went to my doctor, my homeopath, Dr. Rajan Sangran, who's a very close associate of Dr. Batra. And when I'm perplexed about these things, I go to a good homeopath because they usually have the answers to everything. So I went to Dr. Rajan and I asked him, Dr. Saab, when should somebody retire? And without taking a second, he said to me, the only thing we need to retire in our life is our ego. Everything else can continue as it is. So I think we should work 24/7 as long as we are working in the right direction, not causing any pain to anyone else or to ourselves.
Obviously, I've got a very hard act to follow now. So firstly, thank you, Dr. Batra, aka Benjamin Button, for inviting me here today. Tara, in terms of how many hours one needs to sort of work, I think that's a very you can't really define that. I think it's person to person. I think this concept of work-life balance is something we've all been talking about for the past years. But work-life balance doesn't happen on a daily basis. What do I mean by that? So it's not that every day you can say, I'm going to work 8 hours, I'm going to, socialize for 1 hour, go to the gym for 1 hour. It happens in spurts. So there will be times in your life where you'll have a project, you'll have a deadline, and you'll be going all out. And you may be then working 8, 9, 10, 12 hours a day. You will be completely immersed in your work. But there will be times when it also goes down. So it's work life needs to be seen throughout a year, throughout 5 years, not just on a daily basis. And as Rajiv said, that I think if you're heading in the right direction and you're kind of immersed in what you do, you're not necessarily looking at the clock. But that doesn't mean that we drive everyone down the line also, have our same standards for them. So I think that needs to be looked at. And I think mental health is a conversation whose time is long overdue. And it's extremely important that we have it. I think, as all the other previous speakers said, communication is key. And I think this is a topic that's been hidden under the carpet. You'll be shocked that even in this day and age in a hospital, when I'm meeting my cardiac patients, oncology patients, and we say, and we tell the relative that, look, I think you should see a psychologist because these are chronic long-term conditions. And they say, no, he's not mad. I promise you, they still use that phrase. And these are completely educated, sober people, if you like to call it that, who will say he is not mad or she is not mad. And I'm saying you don't have to be, it's completely wrong choice of words. So now I often tell them you need to meet a counselor. I'm sort of sugarcoating it rather than using the psychologist word. So I think, sort of to answer your question, how many hours to some extent is individually dependent. If you are all in and you enjoy what you do, then you're not necessarily going to look at the clock, but definitely take some time out for your mental health as well.
I have one last question for you. You work with a lot of sportsmen, rehabilitating them when they've been injured. When a sportsman, who's at the top of his game, injures himself, does it also affect his mental health? And which is kind of harder?
Is severe and they're off the playing field, their mental health is going to be affected. And I think it tends to be a bi-directional process, that when you're not mentally sort of all there, your physical performance is affected, and the other way around as well. For a sports person, when they're not physically at their peak, they are sort of, their mental health is affected. So as part of our team, we even have a sports psychologist, or we call it a mental health performance coach, if you want to use that phrase, where it's an extremely important part. So all our athletes today, including all our athletes going to the Olympics, they all have a mental health coach. And I think if their physical and mental health are completely tightly correlated, one cannot do without the other.
Thank you so much. Dr. Batra, would you like to launch the book now?
Yes, I think sure.
Okay.
Sorry,
We have to make you wait a little bit, but if you have questions, जरा थांबा ना 2 मिनिटं. सगळ्यांना प्रश्न विचारणार आम्ही 2 मिनिटं. So I'm sure you learned a lot from the words of wisdom here today. I know I certainly did. And I have to say I'm amazed with what candidness people have spoken about these matters. I think Dr. Batra makes people feel very comfortable, and he doesn't judge them, and he makes it very easy for people to talk. So do any of you have questions? I'd like to throw it open. Can we pass a mic around?
Thank you.
Thank you. Just, if you could pass it around. Thanks.
Thank you, Doc. My question to you is, because you're the author, times have changed. So, would old solutions apply to mental health problems or new solutions? Or what is your take on that? Thank you.
Always new problems, new solutions. Old things don't work. You have to change with times. You have to keep evolving all the time, and you have to keep finding new answers, because like things like, for example, cyberbullying. And I'm just going to read out 2 lines to you from my book, because I was myself shocked when I was doing research for the book. A 2022 report by the cybersecurity firm revealed alarming statistics. Around 85% of Indian children have experienced cyberbullying, making it the highest prevalence globally. Indian children also reported being victims of cyberbullying and engaging in cyberbullying behavior at significant rates higher than the global average. More than 1 in 3 children reported facing issues such as cyber racism, sexual harassment, and threats of physical harm as early as at the age of 10. So, everybody's not like Mandira. They don't have the guts to actually to kind of deny their kid that I will not give you a mobile phone till you're 13 years old. I mean, I've worked all over the world. We have clinics in London, in Dubai, wherever. And I've seen parents over there, and I've seen, children actually banging their head in a wall, on the floor, and actually saying that if I don't get this latest iPhone, I'm going to bang my head, and I'm going to bawl, and I'm going to cry. And parents actually give in. So, these are all new times. I'm saying I always used to say, and I do photography all over the world, and actually try to take pictures of people who are satisfied and happy and content with what they have. During our time, all we needed was one ball. I mean, the ball was your best friend. You could, play pittu with it. You could play 7 stones. You could run around. You could play catch. There were so many things you could do with just one thing. And when I was in the Northeast on a photographic expedition, I saw some kids, they're just playing with the mud. Building castles, breaking it, building it again. And that's how they occupied themselves. I'm saying today, you ask somebody what do you want, and they say, I want a PlayStation 5 or whatever it is. So everything has changed today. And therefore, I think our how do we deal with these problems also has to change. If we're going to have a rigid view about what worked for my grandfather or for my father is going to work for me, it's not going to work.
Another question. Would you mind passing?
So, Doctor, we work with 100,000 schools, you're aware, and we always want these school students to talk about this and become more open, see it in a very positive light. But students want to discuss this, but the people who are in charge, the principals, all come from a very old thought, traditional thought. How do we convince them that this is a good topic in order to discuss? People need to talk about it. We have a lot of policy makers associated with us, but principals are not able to get through to them. So how do you think we should deal with this?
Hey, guys like me along whenever you go. I mean, there's no easy answer because, school education is, and I spoke about this, I think at your event as well, when there were thousands of school children, that, it's really by rote. I think the whole education system needs to change. And we can't do it, it's a long tussle. One of the challenges that I have, and I also work on the international scene to promote homeopathy. So one of the things that we were doing was that we wanted to introduce homeopathy and alternative healing, as it is called, which means Ayurveda and yoga, in 5th standard textbooks in Mauritius schools. And we almost succeeded. So we do hope from next year, we'll be starting, to talk to them. So I think it's very, and I said that's also on the platform that you gave me a few days ago, that you have to actually start talking to children when they are young. And you have to talk to them about mental health. You don't have to get into counseling, you don't have to do too many things, but just start the awareness program first. At least make them aware that something like this, just like how there is physical health, there's also mental and emotional health. And just start the conversation and then let the kids take over. I mean, the kids will convince the principal what they need. We don't have to do it.
You could file a writ petition.
In fact, I had the opposite situation. I'd like to share. I had the opposite. When my children were being bullied in school and I was trying to deal with it, the principal of my school called me and said that your child needs counseling. So when the matter went home to my house, my parents, in-laws, they said, Our children are not mad. They're not. So even the older generation needs to be educated or made aware of. So in this case, I benefited from the principal who guided me and my, the elders in my house to take the right action.
This is very good when it's Delhi, Bombay, but we work with schools who are like in Jharsuguda, Port Blair, so it's very difficult to get through that audience.
That's great work you do.
Fabulous work, really amazing. Yeah, we have the lady there.
Hi, I'm Sneha Naidu and I'm food and travel blogger. I'm so happy to be part of this conversation. Thank you so much for inviting me. Since COVID thing started, I have experienced health anxiety due to whatever was happening around. It was very scary. So even though eventually I healed from it and now I'm completely fine, but I have met like many people who are suffering from that problem. So what suggestion would you like to give, doctor?
So, first of all, thank you for bringing this out in the open, because certainly there's been a great increase in mental health problems from the time post-COVID. And why does that happen? It's happened for three reasons. First of all, we were all isolated. And human beings are actually social beings. And therefore, if you're going to be confined into our own walls and in our own spaces and live in closed boundaries, we are not going to be healthy. There is going to be an emotional impact on that. So that's the first reason. The second reason is, what we are really afraid about is uncertainty. I said this earlier and I'm just saying it as a joke for people who travel by train. They say, दादर के आगे सीट है, दादर के आगे सीट है, और हार के आगे जीत है. So, if you really are very confident about yourself and your self-belief, you can actually overcome it. But the biggest thing that really hurt all of us was uncertainty. And what one is afraid about is an uncertain future. We don't know what's going to happen in the future. And that's what happened during COVID. We didn't know what was going to happen. I mean, nobody knew. Doctors didn't know what medicine to prescribe. Patients didn't know where to go. Families didn't know what to do. And there was always that fear of uncertainty which happened. Other than this, there was also a financial loss and there was a personal loss. So we all know somebody who lost somebody in their family. We know somebody who was out of job, who didn't have any income during that phase, who didn't know how to survive in that sense. To overcome all of this really, and this is what I recommend that you read the book. And I'm not trying to push my book, but it has got solutions. There are homeopathic medicines like this. You can actually deal with these kind of emotional problems, which can actually help you. Let me give you two very quick examples. Yeah.
I can give you my example.
Okay. We will give you the opportunity as well. So I remember a case, for example, of a young child who used to get asthma all the time. Every time the father went to Dubai for a job. Nothing else. So that was something which was asthma because of emotional insecurity. And giving him a homeopathic medicine called magnesium carb, which actually overcame that insecurity, he was perfectly all right. So I'm giving an example like this. Similarly, I remember a case, I had another patient who had chronic backache for 10 years. He was heading an international bank. The bank shut. It was a British bank, and it operations, in between, they threw all the foreign banks out of India, doing nationalization. And then he had to go and apply for a job in an Indian bank. And while talking to him and taking his case history, which is very important in homeopathy, as you all know, I then understood that he was telling me that he got his backache started from the time he went for an interview, and his junior was interviewing him and asked him kind of difficult questions. And he said, I am the guy who trained this guy was my mentee, and look at him asking me these questions. Who does he think he is? And I gave him a homeopathic medicine called Staphylos aureus, which deals with, rejection and suppression of emotions. And then that made him all right. And his 10 years old backache disappeared. So, just to give you examples, there are solutions in homeopathy, and that's why this book has been written. I'm going to pass it on to Rajiv for a quick comment as well.
Thank you, sir.
You spoke about anxiety very quickly. In August 2018, I lost a cousin, suddenly, 10 years younger than me. And 3 days later, I flew to London to join 2 classmates for a trip to Barcelona. I wasn't particularly close to my cousin, so I didn't think it had impacted me beyond the point. When I got to London, I felt very unwell. I called a doctor to the hotel. my blood pressure was 200 over 110. Unknown to me, I had internalized what happened to my cousin. And my homeopath helped me to understand later that in my subconscious mind, the concern or the anxiety was that मुझे ऐसा कुछ हो गया तो फिर मेरे बच्चे का क्या होगा, you know. But my conscious mind did not recognize it. So this cardiologist came to my room and he said, you don't need to be admitted because there's no issue with your heart. It is your nerves that are driving your heart, you know. And he charged me 300 pounds for that. And for the Marwadi in me, my blood pressure went up a little more. And the short story is, my homeopath gave me gelsemium. So if you read Dr. Batra's book, it will say on page 2 that 50-60 million people in India have this sort of a problem. It will tell you on page 7 the symptoms of this, all of which I experienced that night. You know, when you lie down, suddenly your heart rate goes up, you can't breathe, there's an orchestra playing in your head. If you see how he starts his chapter on anxiety, it says something like the butterflies in your stomach turn into bees. I can tell you from my personal experience, the song in your heart becomes an orchestra in your head when that happens. I have experienced it. I took Gelsemium 1M and my homeopath told me in 3 minutes you will be asleep. And in 3 minutes I was asleep. And since then, in the last 6 years, I've had 4. This is like a bit of a jack in the box. You know, once the genie is out, you can't put it in. So whenever you have some moment of stress in your life, which you may or may not be aware of, the genie will come out again. And each time, and if you see page 14, he lists remedies, remedies which work for anxiety. And 3 of them I have taken, depending on the situation. One is Gelsemium, one is arsenic alb, and one is aconite. And they work, and you will be asleep in 5 minutes. So because we are here for homeopathy, I wanted to share this example because I want people to know that there are 3 very common misconceptions about homeopathy. One, that it is sugar pills, it's a placebo, is not true. One is that there is steroid in it, not true. One is that it works very slowly. It's not true. You'll be asleep in 3 minutes.
So am I the only person on this panel who hasn't read the book?
Page 2, page 3, page 14.
You are page 3.
I would like to add what you said, like we feel like anxiety in that situation and we don't know what to do, and it actually worsened when we Google it. So Google says something else at that point, like it shows like extreme level ka disease or something.
Doctor will tell you, and any doctor will tell you, Google is not the place to get any kind of information on your health.
True, very true. Thank you so
I
much.
just wanted to ask you in that regard, Raji, considering we are a very conservative society, most of us are always holding back, like the larger critical mass of India, in these kind of psychological, emotional formats. So that would be a great number of people who are just unaware that homeopathy could be. Dr. Batra, would that be true? Like, considering the critical mass of India, emotionally, conservatively holds back so much, and they must be having so much pain to deal with. Is homeopathy the way? I mean,
yeah, absolutely it is. I mean, there are so many problems which happen because of emotional suppression. And this emotional suppression happens not just now, but even as a child. So to give an example again, you can get, for example, physical problems because of somebody who's at a very strict parentage. And so there's a certain medicine which helps you to overcome that. There are some people who kind of suffer from a physical problem because there's overprotection. They say, oh, you can't cross the road alone. My Baba can't do it, but Baba is not 25 years old. But he still can't cross the road alone. So there's emotional insecurity because of that, because of overprotection. And then there's emotional insecurity because of over-dominance. And there are so many women I've met, some girls I've treated who say that my father never allowed me anything. So for everything, there's a different, kind of medicine. And yes, homeopathy has the answers, and the solution really is to create awareness. And that's why this book has been written. So I think
Little question I want to ask.
Okay, last question.
You know, there's this wonderful documentary that I saw on Netflix, I think, called To Kill a Tiger. You may have heard of it. So it's in rural India, and it's about a woman who's traumatized by a very violent assault, and her father, who's a marginal farmer, is fighting for justice. It's a real life story. And you listen to this child, she was, I think, 12 or 13 when this happened, and you listen to the family, the parents, that they have no concept of what is mental health, mental well-being, how they don't even have the words to express the pain that they're feeling. You know, all the things that we talk about when we see a therapist and we lie on their couch and other forms of therapy. But obviously they need help, right? It's not just enough that the police is helping them or social workers are helping them. So Dr. Batra, is how can we get like mental help, you know, through counselors, through psychiatrists, to people who actually can't afford this kind of help and who don't even understand that they need it. You know, in rural India, I mean, you know, where they're really suffering. I mean, farmer suicides and terrible things like that are happening.
So, you know, the only way to do this is to do this digitally and to create a digital platform, because today everybody is connected. And I do believe that my company is treatment free and advice free to people who are in rural India. So that can be a beginning.
Lovely.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we will now formally launch this wonderful new book, Feel Good, Heal Good. I wanted to say that as you guys post on your social media, please hashtag it to homeopathy with a thumbs up sign for this sign.
Unwritten this? Yes.
One, two.
Yeah, ready? Yeah. Ready, please. Man, center. All of you are center. Center, please. थोड़ा सा नीचे कर दीजिए। हाँ, ready. Center.